What's up, guys? Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of our Garage Gym Reviews. And today we're going over the Iron Neck. Full disclosure here. So I got sent this device for free for a review, but this is going to be completely unbiased. And I'm going to say some good things, some bad things, some ugly things. But overall, I just wanted to, before we kind of dive in, I'm going to show you guys some exercises that I kind of tested out with the band as well as with cable resistance. I didn't really do too much research on what the device is actually recommended for. For those that are not aware, my kind of original kind of background getting into coaching was for strength conditioning and specifically for wrestling and football. So I do actually have quite a bit of experience training the neck myself as a former athlete, as well as kind of doing strength and conditioning for both wrestling and football at a fairly high level. We've had state champions, All-Americans, NCAA, Division I qualifiers, and everything in between. So this is kind of just completely off the cuff and just kind of experimenting. I do actually, if you guys are interested, maybe I'll include a link in the description. I do have a very, very extensive kind of guide to neck training, actually on the Glute Guy, Brett Contreras' old site. I believe it's still up on the internet, but I'll kind of link to that. And so that's a really good resource. I think it's one of the best, neck training resources out there, in my opinion. And I believe it got like a pretty good, views back in the day. But anyways, in terms of like the neck, I've always kind of viewed the neck more as like a stability kind of based muscle for most people. So essentially, kind of just as the neck is essentially part of your back, and you do want to be able to produce some movement, with your spine. But generally, you want to kind of be able to resist motion. So especially in the kind of a combat situation, kind of where your head goes, your body goes. If your opponent's able to control your neck, you're going to be in a compromised situation. And in the case of a power lifter, being able to control your head position can also be extremely valuable for maintaining the rigidity of the spine. So there's even some kind of coaches who will kind of pack the neck, pull your tongue to the roof of your mouth just to kind of maintain a good head position, good stability throughout the back. And if you can, especially you'll kind of see there's a bunch of different kind of exercises I'm kind of doing, and some of the unique functions of the Iron Neck is that its ability to kind of rotate 360, which is kind of cool. The biggest downside that I kind of found, and I'm not sure again if this is just me personally, but one of the things that I've always kind of found challenging with some of these pieces of equipment, I kind of expressed some of my gripes with takeover strength, is sometimes these devices I don't always fit kind of people of my size or my strength level or just my kind of mass. So anyways, I had a hard time kind of fitting the device to my head. Again, I spent quite a bit of time trying to kind of figure that out and kind of parse that out. So that was something I spent quite a bit of time doing. And, for me personally, if I'm kind of buying a piece of equipment, I like to be able to, jump right in, start training right away, and being able to just kind of use the product right away. So I probably need to fiddle with it a little bit more to kind of get the sizing correct. They have different kind of pads. But I had a hard time kind of getting, with heavier resistance and more dynamic motions, I had a hard time keeping the device, just kind of on my body. But overall, I thought the device was pretty cool. I do think that a lot of these movements you can kind of do with band resistance without just kind of putting it on your head. And I think that would kind of work pretty good. So I would say that if you are able to use the device with and have it kind of stay on your head with good control, it's definitely superior. It felt pretty good with the cable, felt pretty good with the band, but again, depending on like the angle and depending on how much load I'm using, it became increasingly more challenging to do. I really liked to do this for extension, felt pretty good. Flexion I had a hard time doing. A lot of the side bending I had a hard time doing, but also I don't have the best mobility in my neck. But I did feel there's also kind of a movement called a chin tuck where you're kind of packing your neck, kind of pulling your chin toward the body. And those felt really good. And I think that can be a really valuable exercise, not just for combat athletes, but for lifters in general and just people looking to kind of add some size potentially to their neck, and just some overall thickness. For those that do partake in combat and contact sports like football and wrestling, so this is a kind of a chin tug exercise that you can kind of see. So that's a really good exercise. Really it kind of develops a unique area of like the upper back and kind of the musculature around the cervical spine, kind of where the neck and the upper back kind of musculature, the thoracic spine kind of meet. So that I could see a lot of value as a powerlifter. So that's something to consider if you want to kind of do some neck training. Admittedly, I haven't done a lot of direct neck training kind of recently. Honestly, probably the last time I did was probably in my early 20s and kind of late teens when I was still kind of, working with the kids as far as on the mats. So you can kind of see here, kind of flexion was a little bit awkward. I couldn't really figure that out quite a bit. But extension felt good. The chin tucks felt great. And you can kind of see it, you'll kind of see it periodically. I have a hard time kind of getting it on my head. But there is a kind of a way where you can kind of pump up the device and get it to kind of get on your head a little bit tighter. Again, I'm going to probably play with it a little bit more. It's definitely something it definitely got me at least thinking about implementing a little bit more neck work in my training. With strict curl, kind of traps are kind of important. And just for squats, I'd say for squats and deadlifts, especially kind of just having a thicker neck and a stronger kind of upper back can definitely kind of help with maintaining good positions. So again, side bending was kind of tough. Again, I probably overdid the resistance a little bit. You can kind of see, especially with some of the side bending movements. So the more dynamic the movement, the more kind of motion that wasn't completely kind of lined up. I had a really hard time keeping the apparatus, stable. But I did like it with the cable. I did like it with the band resistance. I like, kind of the idea, if you are doing this at home, just kind of, a couple of times a week, I think that this can be a good, kind of device to do. Again, I'm not really sure if the price tag, I think this kind of retails for around like $600. So I think for most people, if you're not like a really advanced lifter, or you're not like a really high level kind of combat athlete, I'm not really sure if like the juice is going to be worth the squeeze in terms of the price tag. But if you are looking for a neck training device, this is probably one of the most popular ones and kind of one of the better ones on the market. Again, depending on the size of you, most people aren't my size. Again, I'm not really sure if it's just kind of, I couldn't figure it out or I need to kind of do something different too. But definitely got me thinking. Now, I will say if you are new to neck training, there's a lot you can do kind of with a band. I'll kind of link the article to my old blog if it's still available. And you can kind of check that out because there is a lot of stuff. And there's even a lot of stuff you can kind of do with body weight. There's body weight versions for chin tucks. There's body weight versions of just different isometric drills. So kind of going back to what I was saying before, I would treat kind of the neck like the rest of your spine where, you could do some dynamic motions, but you don't want to do these super aggressive and super fast. And also kind of train the neck for stability. So doing kind of longer holds in kind of slower tempos. But definitely kind of got me thinking if neck training is not something that you have kind of partaken in the past, it kind of could be worth it. If you do kind of do any sort of kind of contact or collision sports, you want to kind of do things to help prevent concussions, and just be kind of stronger in general. I think that it's kind of worth, kind of doing a few sets a week. So something I'm going to be kind of playing with a little bit more. You can kind of see here, I'm also using their kind of skull cap here. And again, you'll kind of see like unfortunately the harness kind of pops off here. But again, I might have been using a little bit too much weight. I'm still kind of trying to figure out like the fit for my skull. So anyways, overall positive experience. If you guys want to hear more about neck training, let me know. Until next time, stay strong and I'll see you soon.